Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jerry Cooey.
I'm Deborah Nelson. Thanks for joining us.
And once again, you found us on MediaCom channel, what?
27.
Channel 27, that's right. And from 4:30 to 5 every week. And absolutely, please, we have our YouTube address, any of the shows that you would like to look. If you happen to miss the regular airing every Saturday from 4:30 to 5, feel free to look at, when you have a few moments, cruise on over to YouTube and take a look, Santa Rosa Week TV.
We're in the process of uploading all the shows that will be current in the next week.
We certainly, it seems like, and I heard you mention earlier, are we actually on year 3 now?
Oh yeah, we're moving into year 3.
Yeah, we're year 3, folks, and I'm very proud of the shows, and we want to thank the audience. There's hardly a week that goes by that we don't get a tip from the audience members, and we are certainly available. We don't mind. Deborah and I both, even though she's the chairman of the Democratic Party, she believes in free speech too.
That's a foundation tenet of all liberals.
And look, we don't mind going after a story. I think we've proven that the land deals and the grading covers and prison deals. Many stories that you will not see on your regular news media outlets. We cover them, and
we're working on some right now.
Absolutely, we're working on some right now. Right now, what we're going to say about it is we are working on a story involving the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Department, and we hope that Sheriff Wendell Hall will contact us in the very near future. We look forward to gathering of the information and gathering of the facts.
We have some information left to get before we launch it.
So we look forward to that. Some news gathering agencies, they decide what's news based on, do they think the majority of their viewers would like to see that or hear about it.
And then you see what makes the cut and what doesn't make the cut.
What's different here at Santa Rosa Week TV when it comes to government stuff and use of taxpayer paid for equipment and all things regarding taxpayer money, we always believe that makes the news, and it's certainly going to continue to make the news at Santa Rosa Week TV. One thing that Deborah and I are committed on, even though she is the chairman of the Democratic Party, we are committed on looking out for you, looking at how the tax dollars are spent, looking at how plans and programs are thrown out there. Certainly we've done many stories on the citizens' right of free speech, the citizens' right to for access to government, and we're going to continue to do that. And if other news media outlets don't think that's important, well, that's their gig, and that's fine.
We were told that, and it was confirmed that other media outlets were not interested in this Sheriff's Department story we're doing. So we'll see if our viewers are interested in the next week.
Right. We'll take a look at it. I look forward to a clearing of the air over it all.
Yes.
So we'll see how it works out. Now, folks, we in previous shows we were kind of working our way through the many failures of the legislative session of this past year, and one of them was an election bill.
Yes.
And let's back the bus up a little bit. In the state of Florida, we have 2 weeks of early voting.
Correct.
Throughout the state of Florida, Deborah and I both agree that it's the proper thing to do.
Yes.
In a 2-week period of time, every citizen would have an opportunity. They would have an off day. They would have a Saturday off.
Right.
Prior to the election. Not everybody can vote on voting day. A lot of our citizens go to work before voting starts on voting day and don't get home until after the voting has ended. So that was currently how it used to be set up. And of course our wonderful supervisor of elections, Ann Bodenstein, had her main office in Milton was set up as early voting, and then for the residents in the south end of the county, the service center, you could stop by any time from, I guess 8 in the morning until probably 4 in the afternoon and early vote. Now, in the infinite wisdom of our legislature, and I want to specifically name one of our new legislators, and I do intend on looking him in the eye and asking him to clarify. But Clay Ingram, who is a representative in more towards Escambia and a little bit, in
a district that will almost surely somebody will insist that it be redistricted this time around, because it's incomprehensible how it was shaped that way.
It's ridiculous. But Mr. Ingram was quoted in the press that this election bill, they reduced early voting from 2 weeks to 1 week.
Yeah.
And the reason he gave was because of voter fraud.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you. I think Deborah pays attention. I certainly pay attention. Over the last few years, I haven't seen any documented cases of voter fraud in Santa Rosa County. For the most part, thanks to Ann Bodenstein and her staff, the elections go very smoothly. To my knowledge, and folks, look, I get around, I talk to a lot of people. I haven't heard a complaint about how the voting is handled. I haven't even heard a mention of potential voter fraud.
Anywhere in Florida. And
for an elected state representative to use that as an excuse, and I'll tell you, Mr. Ingram, should you watch our broadcast, matter of fact, I will send him a copy as soon as you get it on YouTube. I think you ought to explain yourself on voter fraud, because if you have knowledge as an elected official in the state of Florida, if you have knowledge of voter fraud, I think you should immediately report that to the state supervisor of elections, and potentially many other law enforcement agencies, including the state attorney's office, maybe the FDLE. If fraud is so widespread, Mr. Ingram, who has made it illegal for people to use fertilizer during the summertime when they would like to fertilize their grass. That was another one of his great remedies for our area. But if you have knowledge of voter fraud, I challenge you, send an email to SR Editor and
at bellsouth.net.
bellsouth.net. Let us know about the fraud, because Santa Rosa Week TV wants to get to the bottom of it, Representative Ingram. I mean, in all fairness, if there's widespread voter fraud, maybe you shouldn't have been elected. Maybe it was voter fraud that put you in office. Maybe we should look into that. In all seriousness, Representative Ingram, you've got your invitation. You'll get a copy of the videotape. And send us an email and explain yourself. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I have never seen a group of legislators work any harder to make any more people matter than they were already.
It was god-awful. It was god-awful.
Now we brought to you, I guess a couple shows ago when we were talking about this, we talked about the insurance bill.
Yeah.
Okay. Now Deborah said, one of her quotes in one of those shows was that in this new bill, that reinsurance, that would become a private matter, and in case the reinsurance rates went up, that could be a justification for the insurance company for increasing our rates.
They separated it out as normally they have to get approval from the OIR, Office of Insurance Regulation, at the state level. They've separated the so-called reinsurance costs, which is basically an insurance company also buys insurance from Lloyd's of London is one of the big ones, and that way if there's some huge catastrophe, a hurricane or something, and they have to make a bunch of payouts, they're insured, so they get money if that's theoretically what happens too.
The reason I bring that up again is because, interestingly enough, and look, folks, I'm just like you. I'm driving down the road and I'm changing the radio channel, certainly listening to all the news that I can find. 1 week to the day after Governor Rick Scott signed that bill into law, there was a story on AM radio where the insurance companies in the state of Florida was stating that their reinsurance costs were going up.
Of course. And they can raise them 15%, you can raise the rates 15% a year just for that. They can also ask for a normal rate increase. It's not related. It's just like the electricity monopoly in this area can say, oh, our fuels costs went up this year, even though everybody else's went down for some reason, ours went up. And so we want to tack on a fuel surcharge to your bill. It's got nothing to do with raising the rates.
Right.
And it's a separate little process. It's the same kind of thing. And they can jack your rates up 15%, and over the course of 5 years, not effectively, double what your premium costs out.
Folks, remember this. We told you about it. The legislature voted on it. Governor Rick Scott signed it, and 1 week later, the insurance companies were already claiming that their reinsurance rates were going up, and they have a built-in 15% that you cannot say one word about.
Immediately. Senator Greg Evers signed that, and Senator Don Gates signed that as well.
Those were put in there. I mean,
it's ridiculous.
Could you at least wait a month, but before you start working your agenda for the increase?
No, they can't. They've had this programmed in for quite some time, I'm sure.
Folks, you might as well hang on.
Because now their stock prices will now go up.
Yeah.
And they'll make money on that end, and then the bonuses will get in. And it's that whole.
Your insurance is going up.
Yeah. It's that whole shell game that they play.
You can mark it down.
Yeah, it will go up.
Not only will you continue to pay $200 a year to Citizens Insurance, which would do absolutely nothing for me, I'm only helping someone else.
Well, no, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, is we can't say, well, your rates stink, I'm going to get Citizens. Because we can't just automatically get it. If we could go and get a Citizens policy whenever we wanted one, that might keep them honest at the insurance companies, but they don't want to go. They don't want to take that extra step because our legislature operates in the interest of industry. It does not operate in our interest, obviously.
Well, it's just to me it's absolutely shameful that as soon as the bill is signed into law, immediately the calls for increased cost in insurance. Folks, you heard it here on Santa Rosa Week TV. You might as well get ready.
Because you sure didn't hear it anywhere else in the local media.
No, you did not.
Another thing that we're not interested in, and therefore we should have asked a TV station if they were going to report on that ever.
So you might as well go ahead and get ready because as your policy is nearing the end, most of you are going to be receiving a notice that your rates are going up. And
well, not only that, but they can also work into the policy now where you have to pay out of your pocket, like your roof comes off.
Yeah, and let's go into a little more detail on that, folks. Another thing that is in that bill that is just unbelievable to me. Now picture yourself, and just like I was in Hurricane Ivan, I've got a considerable amount of damage to my home. I have at the time I had no access to a bank.
Right.
Had certainly didn't have $17,000 stuck in a mattress. This bill is now saying that, and not necessarily, but they have the authority to, that they're going to expect you, the homeowner, to pay for the damages of the cost of the repairs to your home first, and then the insurance company will reimburse you. And I'll use the medical industry for a moment to relate that. For all of you who get pushed into that same thing as we'll pay us up front and then the insurance will work it out, it typically doesn't work out. You always, well, they'll always say, well, we think the cost of repair was a little high, or you didn't quite do it like we felt,
Right,
so
exactly.
we're going to cut 10% off of
Exactly.
what we're going to pay you.
Yeah.
It's going to be used as nothing in the world but a way to cost you more money.
Well, it's like health insurance with the private insurance industries are now, where you go in and you're no matter what it is, you're going to have the nickel and diming bills. They're going to come in with the $40 here you didn't pay and $70
Right.
here, and eventually it's a couple $100 to have anything done. Even that's with insurance. Without insurance, it's either a couple thousand or you just go in the emergency.
Well, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I am completely disappointed in the work of the legislature this year. One of the things that's near and dear to both Deborah and I is this last year, and we've talked about it before, should an elected board or an appointed board decide that they don't want to hear from you at a meeting where they're discussing the spending of your dollars, they can ban you from having a conversation. And you're going to have to go to court and fight it out. Now, that bill to change the Sunshine Law, and look, the Sunshine Law says the right to participate.
Yeah, at a meeting, at a public meeting.
At a public meeting. Well, anybody with a half a brain knows that participate means to speak and to engage with and all this kind of stuff. But some of our learned judges, like Charles Kahn, and once again, when you get finished watching the show, go to your computer, go to Google, type in Charles Kahn, K-A-H-N, and read all about him. I'll let you decide what kind of character this person is. But in their infinite wisdom, they have left us hanging. Now, in this year's legislature, a bill was written in the House and a bill was written in the Senate, neither of which got out of committee. So, ladies and gentlemen, your legislature in 2011, they think you commit voter fraud, so they're going to reduce the number of days that you can have in early voting. They have passed a bill that will increase your insurance rates. It is not if, it's a when. They didn't protect your right to speak. And along these lines
Wait,
of
let me
speak,
interject. The other thing they failed to do was they failed to rescind the septic tank bill.
Right.
Where we have to pay a couple $100. It's either a year, it's an ongoing process.
Right.
That we have to pay out of our pockets if you own a septic tank. That's ridiculous. That was a giveaway to the septic tank maintenance industry.
Right.
I mean, their professional journal was crowing about it.
You know, and if you're watching this show, of course, we talked a lot
that's
about
something else that Senator Don Gates voted for.
Right. We've talked about it previously, but let's talk about it again. The septic tank bill arbitrarily said that every septic tank in the entire state of Florida would have to be inspected. And the first thing you have to ask yourself, the people that are doing the inspections, they have a vested interest in finding a problem with your septic tank. It's not an independent inspection.
Right.
It's not the county health department coming
Right.
out and checking. It's the people who will charge you to put in a new drain field or put in a new septic tank. But the main thing of it is there's different soils in the state of Florida. Now, I will tell you right now, I wholeheartedly agree that within a couple thousand feet of any body of water in the state of Florida, there shouldn't be a septic tank. But what I don't agree with is we have hundreds into the thousands of operational septic tanks in the state of Florida that are in good soil, and there's absolutely no reason to force a mandate, which the inspection we heard could be as high as $500. And then if they find a problem, it could be $10,000 to $12,000.
And some people will automatically need a new drain field, which is $10,000 or $15,000.
You know, the bill got thrown out there. Look, it's a proven fact. I've spoken with the people. The person who put the bill forward was term limited out, and they had direct ties to the industry.
But people voted for it. Gates voted for it.
Yeah, and we were promised, and I want to put out a quick commercial for the San Rosa County Tea Party groups. I mean,
Yeah,
they hammered this. They hammered this thing
Yeah,
to death.
They pursued it.
They rode over to Tallahassee. They stayed on the floor. They wrote letters and everything, and they were promised that the bill was going to be repealed. And after the whole legislative session, it's still there. It's going to be implemented in 2012 unless the legislature takes immediate action at the beginning.
So Gates found time to get this insurance bill passed where we're going to get screwed on our insurance policies, but he did not find time to get any kind of bill where we have a public right to speak at a public meeting,
Right.
and he didn't find time to get the septic tank stuff that he voted for rescinded.
Right.
So this is what's going on with our local legislatures.
I tell you, folks, I spend most of my time looking at county issues and have for many years. This last legislative session, I decided to break it down and become more involved in the state stuff. And after doing that, I've just got one thing to say. To the Tea Party, to every grassroots organization in the state of Florida, all of you, the legislature let us down, big time. And as far as I'm concerned, we need to take our right arm and we need to put it on one side of the table, and we need to rake them all off into the ocean, and we need to put different people up there because they're not about the will of the people.
Right. And what never happens in the media, another thing that I guess we the public are not interested in, and therefore our local media certainly never reports on, is you never see the voting record.
Right.
This person approved this and that and the other thing. Never ever see it during election time with the Pensacola area media.
Right.
Nothing.
Well, look, folks, and I hear this periodically. Well, it's everybody else's elected official that's the problem. No, folks, it's all of them is the problem. Okay, there's not to my line of thinking. There's not one thing in this year's budget that I really, for goodness sakes, we got the worst unemployment that we've ever seen in the state of Florida. Not even lip service about jobs.
Yeah.
The governor runs around and says, "I want to do this and do that."
Well, what he's done is he's taken money from roads, the trust fund, from the dock stamps, and he's going to put that towards his new economic development scheme that he's worked out with the OTED department. And now the way he's worked it is instead of Enterprise Florida, which was in my humble opinion, extremely questionable organization to begin with, and had been questioned, and then the questions petered off, et cetera, et cetera. Instead of that process happening, which is like a Team Santa Rosa at the macro level, now he personally will have signatory authority for handing out basically the presents, the gifts, to this whoever makes the cut.
Well, it's just. The legislature they threw fits at each other and look, folks, and I'll tell you another thing, and so you will know this. The Florida legislature doesn't have to follow the Sunshine Law, which they wrote. They do whatever they want to. Okay. 3 or 4 individuals in a private meeting at the governor's mansion made the deal on a $68 billion budget for the state of Florida. It was not discussed in the open. They decided what categories was going to cut and all that. It's wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong. And look, let me pat you on the back. At the federal level, the average turnover rate in Washington D.C. is 3%. About 20 people.
Yeah, it's too low.
In 2010, you replaced 25%. That was about 115 people was replaced in the Congress. To the folks that voted and made that happen, not only in Santa Rosa County but in the U.S., you did a good job, but you didn't get enough of them. And I have just personally come to the conclusion that even though there may be some legislators that are trying to do the right thing, there's not enough of them that are trying to do the right thing. And I've just, I've had enough. And let me end it with, and we'll have a little fun with this, but For example, Anthony Weiner in the Congress.
Right.
So there's 535 of them in Washington, D.C. that are all duly elected. You think he's the only one that sent pictures of his junk to everybody?
Right.
You know? I mean, we don't have more pressing matters than to be on Twitter. Honest to goodness, if we did the proper type of investigation and went and looked at all of these 535 people that work for us,
right,
I will guarantee you will find something on a large percentage of those computers that shouldn't be there.
Right.
It just continues to amaze me that elected officials and employees of the government have all of this spare time.
Yeah.
When there's discussions of reducing the number of employees, then they come out in droves. We're overworked and we're underpaid. Yet week after week there's another story of abuse of a computer over here, and this one sending pictures, and this one looking at this, and this one looking at that. It just astounds me. You know, I just, well, I guess what I'm getting at here, folks, 2012, and I've used this word before. We are all hanging over the abyss right now. We have one finger left hanging on the abyss. We're falling into it. I'm not exaggerating here, folks. Your insurance went up. You didn't get a raise on Social Security. You didn't get a cost of living raise. Many of you had a reduction in salary. Prices across the board are going up. There's no hope. Unemployment's at almost 11% now.
Yeah.
This country doesn't have the hope that it once had, and we're hanging by a thread. And I can point to 535 people in Washington, D.C. and about 146 of them, or 47 of them in Tallahassee, Florida,
yeah,
that's directly responsible for that.
Yeah.
And the solution is very simple. I know a lot of you that may watch this show may say, well, I don't want to run for office because they'll look into your background, all that. Folks, you know what your background is. 2012 is the year for you to decide if you have an interest in public service. If you want to be a public servant, 2012 is the year for you to get involved, to run, to vote, to run, to have an impact, because if we do not correct this in 2012, we are going down the tubes. I'm Jerry Cook.
Kevin Nelson, thanks for watching. Good night.